Welcome back to the Chefpreneur Podcast. Excited to have you guys on and tuning in. So thank you again. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you like this video, you share it with people, comment as well. We love to hear your comments and see your comments there. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast, make sure that you again subscribe as well to this. And we go live every Tuesdays, God willing. Sometimes we have issues. Last week I had kidney stones that I passed, so it was an interesting week, but we're all good now. So we have a very, very special guest with us today, Chef Larry Ferguson out of Springfield, Missouri. I'm really excited to have him on the show. You know, such a world and a wealth of knowledge that he possesses, and really excited to bring him on and get to interview him. So let me go ahead and bring on Chef Larry. How you doing today, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Chef. How are you? Thank you
Good.
for having
me. Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. I know we were trying to figure out as well just some things here, but I can hear you all good. We can hear you good. So good and loud and clear. But Chef, let's just start by diving into a little bit about your background. I mean, you were telling me a little bit before the show, just obviously the level of experience that you have in this industry, but kind of start at the beginning. I like to just get to know the chefs that that we have on the podcast, that really just to hear your story. So how'd you get into being a chef, get into cooking? Tell us your story, my friend.
Well, I was about 19 years old going to university here locally, and my father said, well, you kind of need to get a job. And the first place I got was a dishwasher at a barbecue restaurant here locally, family operation. And I started washing dishes and making about $3.85 an hour, and met a corporate chef that was in the organization. And that's kind of what keyed all the focus of culinary into my life. And so I say, my wife and I, Sandra, got married at a young age, and I followed my dream, moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, went to culinary school at Scottsdale Culinary back in the early 90s. Worked at the Arizona Biltmore through college, and we have connections here in the Midwest, so we stay out there for a stint through college and work in an environment, and then totally opened up a whole new avenue of meeting the right people, the opportunities, and then we were back here in Missouri. So that's kind of my brief, working with a lot of French chefs, European brigade system. So kind of classically trained and worked under some really good chefs,
Okay, great. And so when you say classically trained, obviously, I mean, for those of us that know the term, kind of old school per se, but at the same
Yep.
time, still going on with the times of innovation, but just again, those good solid techniques and
Techniques, back when European chefs, apprenticeships were very popular, and working into the hotel system with the brigade system in mind of the different levels of being a chef as well.
I like that. I like that. So, Chef, tell us. I know that it says here your background is, obviously you're full time in your business. Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, correct.
Awesome. And what's your business name?
Ferguson Culinary Concepts LLC. So we're a private chef service. We specialize in cooking for vacationers on Airbnbs to Vrbo to we have an established relationship with a partnership here locally out of Branson, but we do travel as well, Lake of the Ozarks, Fort Myers, Florida, and also here locally in the Ozarks.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome. And when did you start the business?
It's going to be 2 years in April.
Okay. So fairly new on the business side, obviously not as a chef, but on the business side.
Well, I had another private chef business about 25 years ago when I got out of culinary school, and I toured with a rock band called the Newsboys. It's a Christian rock band.
Oh,
And we
really?
did,
That's cool. I didn't know that. The
yeah,
Newsboys, huh?
and that was my first, plunge into private chefing. At the time, I had a mobile catering unit, and we toured in 48 states. And so we were cooking for all the roadies, all the different bands that were on tour. So there's probably 4 different bands. So you could be cooking up to 150 to 200 people a show. So it's quite challenging. So
Yeah, I know. It's any time that you're dealing with kind of the traveling schedule as it, sometimes it can be exciting, especially when we're kind of doing our thing and kind of going through, I don't want to say being young, but kind of that excitement. And then over time, it's like, that's a lot. It's a lot to travel. It's a lot to go through, through all of that. But
yes,
that's awesome. And so in culinary, you said it's at Ferguson Culinary Concepts, correct?
yes, correct. Yes,
Okay.
sir. And
And
and also, go ahead. Sorry, Chef.
no, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, does that, when you started Ferguson Culinary Concepts, was your idea really, what was your idea inspired by? Like, what inspired you to start that kind of business? Was it just because you had one previously a long time ago and felt like I want to get back to it?
Uh, I really work for corporate as in the corporate realm for chefing. I work for a lot of different companies, kind of like your background as well. And I just wanted to have more time with my family. My son, like we had spoke earlier, has
Mhm.
autism, so we, my boys are growing older, and God just brought this opportunity to me, and I've been running with it, and God's been really good, blessing us too. It's been good.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest things that I realized, I was just having this conversation the other day because it's, again, I don't want to touch on too much, topics that might be, I don't want to, I want to be sensitive to you and your life, but, and you said that you have a special needs son, it's one of those things where I have found me personally that in business, right? Business is not easy. Um, it's simple as a concept, but it's not easy for sure. But would you say that's also, like you said, it's allowed you to spend more time with your family and be able to be there with them, even
Yes.
though there's challenges of it, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Honestly, even before, I followed you on Facebook and, all your social media outlets and some of your processes I've incorporated into my business, especially for the partnerships. And, it's not easy to be a chef and hustle, is what I say it. I mean, there's not a lot of chefs that want to take on having their own business because you got to sell, you got to cook, you got to plan, and it's a lot of work. And you use that focus to just drive yourself to be the best that you can be, kind of like in training that you go through the industry and try to gain more knowledge as you can.
Yeah.
And we also, with my company, my website is fergusonculinaryconcepts.com, but also a branch of my company is called Chefs United 417. And I partner with another Italian chef here locally, Chef Tony Russo. His website is fattonysPizzaKitchen.com. So that gives us another level of bringing mobile catering and on-site catering as well to try to be innovative and do things differently. I do a lot of social media. I do have a marketing team as well that does some of my web pages and marketing. So God's really putting things together this year for our company. I've already started off busier than last year,
Praise God. That's awesome.
and I think that you said this before, and you can recall this, but you always said there's always someone that you got to keep in your circle, if that's a mentor or if that's the American Culinary Federation, which I'm associated with, your alumni association. If you want the culinary, you need people in your life to help things execute and
Yeah.
and doing events and just giving everybody a great experience, because private chefing is and personal chefing are so different than we're still educating people on what it is. Every day
100%.
you're selling it, you're selling your service, you're selling yourself,
Yeah.
but it's an educational thing that we do, and we
Yeah.
do it every day, so
I couldn't have said it any better myself, Chef. I think, and I say that all the time, right? And even marketing is that way where you have I call it like a bullseye, right? Like if you look at like a target and then you look at the bullseye, marketing is a lot like that. There's just people on the outside of the I guess you would say of the overall target that don't even know the services that you and I provide. They don't even know what that is. They don't know what that means. And then you use marketing and social media and different things to educate them to get closer to the bullseye, get them one step in, like, oh, I now know what that is. I know, wow, that could really, that might be something I want to do. And you're enlightening them, and they're going from an educational to more enlightenment stage, and then from enlightenment they go into more awareness of like a need or a want, and then that's where you're able to kind of bring them in and get you to get them to hire, especially in a place like Springfield. I know we were speaking before the show too that we've had Chef Jeff Woodward on, and his
Yep.
wife, Dr. Dana. I mean, she wasn't on the show, but they're running the Rogue Chefs, and it's a great, great company. And I've been very blessed and honored to even help, give them some coaching over the last few months. And, it's funny because in different areas of the United States, a lot of chefs too also think like, well, I don't know if there's really a market for me here. And of course, there's challenges that do come with that in different areas of the United States. However, those are like the untapped resources. It's kind of like saying, hey, there's oil in the ground, but nobody's ever tried to get it out, right? Like,
Right.
and so sometimes it's that pioneer phase where we feel, and I think that again, doing these podcasts and having more of us out there on our own individual accord, marketing ourselves, is actually just bringing more awareness, like kind of as a mass to our audience, all of us, our audience of future clientele, of just awareness of what this is. And
Right.
that's usually, that's my hope, not only with chefs, because a lot of chefs don't know
Mhm.
really this business model exists. To be honest with you, they still are very confused about it.
Mhm.
But the same thing with clients as well. So I love how you put that. And I love how you also did, like you were talking about, you know, kind of being part of a circle.
Mhm.
That's really important. I think learning how to execute things, knowing where we want to go is really the vision that I feel that God gives us. And then, as it says in the Bible, to seek wise advisors, and then you get counsel around you to say, how do I get there? Right. So it's one thing to be like, we want our own clarity on where we want to go. And I think that's something between you and yourself and the Lord, and really diving into what the vision is. But then it's, now I know where I want to go. Who can I bring in? Who can I learn from? Who can give me advice on how to actually get there? And so that's really great. Now you were saying that you have a team right now, Chef, right? What's your team made up of? Is how many people, or is it more of just kind of per event and things like that?
So I will it's myself and Chef Tony Russo and the Chefs United 417, but we do contract 1099 chefs to come in with certain events. So if it's a bigger event, or even if I've got to fly in one of my buddies from Phoenix to do an event, we have that that to our disposal. And one thing that I learned from you, Chef, is that you got to know your customer. And a
Mhm.
lot of people be on these groups, and saying, "Oh, well, how do I get customers?" Well, we always are searching for new customers, but you got to know what your target market is, and that will help
True.
with pricing as well. And that's just a learned. And as chefs, we're always learning. If you're not learning new social media, how to do posting, or different innovative things. We want to be different than other businesses, but we also want to help people as well. Giving back to uh, the culinary world is something that I'm very passionate about, and driving to the next level. And like you said, you might be the only lone wolf out here, but you're really not. There's always people to help, and
Always, yeah. Yeah.
it's not an easy thing to do, and you get a lot of credentials to enlighten people and help people, and just have those people in your circle. It's going to help your business grow, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's really good. I like how you touched on, it isn't easy. I always believe that business is simple because it really is. The concept is simple. When we look at even dishes and recipes that we cook as chefs, right? For us, things become relatively easy over time, right? Somebody who's, it's funny, I'll talk to different people at our church or people that are friends of ours, and, they're just like, oh, yeah, for you, it's so easy to cook a perfect filet, medium rare, or whatever. But, it takes obviously practice and experience. But, the concept of what you're doing when we're cooking and doing proper techniques, the concepts are simple, but it's not necessarily always easy. It's the fact that business is a lot like that, right? It's simple, but it's not easy. And the simplicity sometimes is actually what makes it difficult, because we can overthink, we can overanalyze as well. And that happens in a lot of businesses. And I think that it's really good how you mentioned that it isn't easy. But like I said, the concept is simple. So, I really think that, as the industry shifts, where do you see? Because I know for me, I have my own perceptions and my own opinions about where I know the industry or where I feel the industry is going. But where would you say, as far as the future for chefs, where would you say is like the way that it's headed in the industry right now? Like, where, for your kind of, I want your perspective on your kind of thumb on the pulse of like where you think the industry is going.
Well, a lot of, I would say, the younger chefs or not going to culinary school and just working and trying to do their own thing. I see catering special events is really kind of growing. Not that restaurants aren't growing as well, but it's a little harder to, with the, ever since COVID-19, to staff certain locations. And, there's just a lot of things that are, some things are out of your control. But when you're a private chef or personal chef, you can control a lot more than the average job. If it's not the schedule, if it's not the event, you can shape what you want to do, and and go full force into it.
No, I
So
love that. I love what you said about the special kind of experiences and occasions. I think that's something that is connecting what people are wanting in clientele, and then connecting them with, again, the experiences that we're able to provide.
yep.
I say in a lot of my podcast, I say in a lot of trainings I've done, it's like cutting out the middleman, right? It's
Mhm.
like,
Yep.
if it's going to sound weird, but if you look at really talented chefs, it's like working in a restaurant. For me, this is just me, my own opinion, working in a restaurant where you have, even if you're like, have a decent amount of creative control, it's kind of like you're still being, you're being bought at wholesale to sell retail, right? Like, it's taking the creative arts of the chef, working the recipes, working the dishes, working the experiences to a degree, and then taking that and reselling it retail to the clientele, with the middleman being the restaurant, the setting.
Right.
And of course, like you said, restaurants, the actual business model of restaurants, I'm actually going to do a video probably sometime this week and release it on YouTube, on really walking through what I think the four business models out there are for the culinary world, because, and kind of the pros and cons of them.
Hmm.
But the restaurant industry is just so difficult. It's a difficult industry. It's a difficult business model. I should say, shouldn't say industry. It's a difficult business model. And again, it's like, the chef. It's kind of like, instead of being sold wholesale, bought wholesale and sold retail, just cut out the middleman and sell yourself directly retail. I mean,
Exactly. That's
you earn more money and you're more creative, and it allows you to do more. And honestly, it benefits, I believe it benefits the clientele and the consumer more, because you're giving them an experience that they can't even get at a restaurant.
well,
So, I
well,
love that. I love that. So,
you just hit it right on the nail. And in the last 12 years, it's been popular for the Michelin stars to
yeah,
work in all the dedication, like Lena and all these big name restaurants for these, and it's a, you're working 17 hours a day.
yeah,
And and getting that on your resume, because I have some colleagues and friends that have worked in Michelin restaurants and that top level. Um, but it's just changing, a lot. I mean, we see that coming out of COVID, um, how things have changed. You as a entrepreneur or a chef have to change and be innovative. And I know that we talked a little bit about innovation, but the definition I have is to new things into existence to solve a problem. Well, that's what we're doing. We're trying to
Yep.
change the experience, and uh, and what I'd like to see is more people helping each other in this industry. And I mean, ACF is a great organization, but just in your area, if you can team up with people just for guidance, it's a good thing. And also, of course, Chef and Entrepreneur would be excellent as well. But to me, you can't really do it on your own. You
Yeah,
might,
it's difficult.
you know, but
Well, and I think you said something that's really important right there to kind of pause on, Chef, is like when you said it's really hard, you can't do it on your own. I want to go even a little bit deeper than that and kind of connect. I think, and we can all admit this, I'll admit this, when we're as a chef, when we're in the industry, just general culinary industry, all the positions you've held, the places that you've been able to work at, we were talking a little bit before the show,
mhm.
about the Biltmore, in Scottsdale, and we were talking about the Ritz Carlton, Four Seasons, the places I've worked as well, and like all these places that we've garnered this experience from. You're I don't want to say it in the corporate way of like climbing the ladder, but you're intrigued, you're passionate, you're there, you're focused, but at the same time you're trying to move ahead.
Yeah,
And you're not really in a collaboration state of mind of, let's be honest, most chefs, even with a good sous chef, they build them up, yes, but then if the sous chef wants to, if the sous chef starts flying away a little bit, either above the head chef, or they want to go do their own thing, or they want to go get a job, it's like there's so much ridicule, like, oh, you're not ready yet, or you're not. And there's this kind of ego pride. And what happens is I think that at least with Chefpreneur, I can't speak for other places and I can't speak for other organizations and so forth and so on. But in Chefpreneur, we really purposely, from the day that I released my first podcast and the day that I've started helping chefs, I wanted to really build a culture that was not only just a network, it was truly like a family, like you were a member of the family. And we really, I think we've done that. We constantly strive to do that. And the reason is, again, because now you're stepping into your own identity, yes, as a chef, but you're also stepping into being a chefpreneur, being a business owner.
mhm.
And then we start to look at things where we can allow that pride sometimes to set in, even to this day. I mean, we coach a lot of people. I have 4 certified coaches now that are helping coach other chefs and really helping them build their businesses. And realistically, it's like sometimes you still have to even chisel a little bit of that away when you're first coaching people. They can, oh, everything's going good, business is amazing, and then you dig a little deeper and it's like, no, I'm actually falling short, I'm this, I'm that. And it's like there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's
Yeah,
hard, and we still have challenges in my company. It's not like I'm perfect over here by any stretch of the imagination. So the
right.
thing is that you have to learn how to also be transparent about those things, and like you said, doing it. And that's why I know I can see and hear that the success you've been given is like, and what you're doing is like, it starts with that mindset shift, and you've been able to say, you need help. You need not only help with, of course, your team members to help you carry out certain things in your business, but even more so, it's like, what is the direction we're wanting to head, or how do we get there? And again, I think that together, all of us, as when we're in this industry of being a personal chef and that innovation you're talking about, I think, as weird as it sounds, that's part of our innovation, is actually working together as
Yeah,
opposed to constantly working against each other, because that's
yeah,
very innovative in the culinary world, because it's usually dog eat dog. Like you were talking about Alinea and some of these, 3-star Michelin restaurants. You get to 3-star Michelin and it's like, it's a whole nother level. Those
mhm.
chefs do collaborate a lot because you're on this hierarchy aspect. But what's so funny is when you're 2-star, 1-star, or you're like in the same city and you're trying to compete, it becomes pretty ruthless because there's only so many servers. They're going to jump from French Laundry to Alinea and
Yeah,
Alinea to Blackbird or wherever, right? Like they're going to
Mhm.
jump, and sous
Yeah.
chefs will do the same, and cooks will do the same. And
Right.
I mean, I can go another 3 hours talking about, right, how you were saying 17-hour days for some of these cooks. It's like, then you get you reach this pinnacle, and then you're like, now what? And then you have like, um, you have different people like Raymond Blanc and different people in the UK that have given back their stars because they're just like, okay, I reached
Right.
the 3 star, but then it's like, okay, cool, kept my restaurant full, was making good money, but then it's like now you're, I hate to say it, okay, maybe not a good way to say it, but now you're kind of a worker slave to the stars, right? And now it's like, do you
Yep.
really have that full control, or do you have to keep the stars up, and so you lose a little bit of your heart creativity of like, some of those things. And so
Mhm.
I am a true kind of entrepreneurial freedom kind of guy, and awards and accolades are great,
Mhm.
but I think again, like Marco Pierre White comes to my mind,
Yeah.
great
Mhm.
chef. And you see him doing YouTube videos with his old school cooking hat on now, and it's like he's going back to the roots of like, let's
Mhm.
just cook some really good salmon with some beans and vegetables. Like we're not trying to tweezer everything. We're going back to like,
Right.
this is what I enjoy. Or I just, he hunts a lot, right? Here's my duck I'm preparing, like just
Yeah.
simple roast stuffed duck, right? Like, and
Well,
I think that you can still do those things elegant, but he's not getting into it for the minuscule,
right.
things. And so, um, you know,
Well, in
yeah,
the old days, chef, we would come up working under European chefs, and that was the way to go. And trying to get that on your resume, and that's kind of the old school that I came up with. But
yeah,
and to have the really good culinary school on your resume, and trying to do what you read, and you're always reading and trying to find out what the new thing is, but it has changed a lot, the industry, but you have to change with the industry as well, especially if you have your own business,
no, I
you,
love that.
you've got to be innovative, you know.
Well, we've had some good conversations so far, Chef. I want to kind of flip the script, as I say here on the podcast, and
Mhm.
allow you to ask me any questions or anything that you wanted to bring up today that to dive into, to just again have a discussion about. Is there anything that comes to mind for you?
Um, just I think I did a little bit of research about your background as well, and what really intrigued me was your partnerships that you do have. I know you have two other personal chef businesses in California, or you did at one time, and I've seen where those personal partnerships are great for a independent business owner that is looking for the leads, and are hoping, you get Google leads, or, we're always sourcing the leads, and it's nice to have those referrals to help a business, and
Yeah,
themselves, and what would be your recommendations on partnerships,
that's a great question. I mean, I think that honestly, if I'm being very transparent, that's the way that I built my personal chef to
Mm,
business to do the revenue it does today. One of the biggest things I found was, and honestly, it's not like, we created at Chefpreneur partnerships, right? There's partnerships in every industry and they do the same kind of model per se. But where I felt that the immense value was, especially for people listening and watching this, is, really like you said before in the conversation, you have to really understand who your people are. And the reason I say that is because you got to know where they gather. You got to know what other services they use, right? if
mm,
if if your target market and your ideal clientele are using XYZ service, or that they're the types of people that use this service or that think this way, or what happens is you're able to go then to companies and organizations that you can kind of in a way get in bed with and partner with, to say, hey, I offer these services here, here's what I offer, this is what you offer. I feel like we have a cross correlation with the same kind of target demographic and market, and I would love to kind of kind of hit kind of basically create a benefit for each other here. And the reason why this is so powerful, I believe, is really powerful, especially for people that are just starting out. But honestly, even if they've been in business for 10 years, I mean, it's important. But I'm saying the reason is because it sometimes is not the fastest way, Yes and no. It could be very quick on getting referrals and getting them to send people over your way. But the real truth of it is too is especially in a market that you're in. Let's say again you're in Dallas Fort Worth area. Well, when you're launching your business or you feel like you truly have like officially launched, maybe you've been doing it part-time, you've been doing things, you've been doing gigs, you've been taking this or that, but then you say, I really want to build a real company, I really want to build a real business. What happens is, just like our own personal reputations, we have to start building reputations of our businesses. And what happens is the way to build a reputation is to have many people know about you, and a lot of times it's through someone they trust. So just like a referral would act as like Chef Larry would go cook for Jane Doe, Jane Doe would tell her friend Susie about Chef Larry's services over at Ferguson Culinary Concepts. That referral that Jane Doe is referring, that Susie lady would be coming in, would be much higher percentage that she's going to book you and actually use your services because it's coming from a trusted source of her friend Jane Doe. What partnerships is like is honestly like a mass, it's a bigger scale of that, because it's not the individual fish, it's where the school of fish are at all together. So for instance, just like on an example of like, let's say that you're really dialed into doing like meal prep, you really are building your whole personal chef business or more meal preparation and getting people healthier, losing weight, maybe with keto. We've actually coached several chefs for that. And when they look in their area and we start to, we build out their brand and we help them do all that. And once they're established and have the actual company built, then we start hitting the partnerships. And the reason is because again, it gets the word out, number one, quicker, but it also, again, it builds that trust instantly. Because if you go partner with a nutritionist who's going to recommend somebody to be on a low glycemic, diet, or, start eating more like keto friendly foods and keto friendly diet, what's going to happen is that nutritionist that maybe has been a figure for 10 years in the area, that has a long list of clientele, long list of a reputation. They're well respected by all their clients. It's a great company. Of course, you're vetting them as well, just like they would vet you. But when you partner with the nutritionist and the nutritionist tells one of their clients, hey, I've recently partnered with a chef that they can really help you to follow this keto diet with a meal plan, it's instant trust. It's
Right.
like a maximum referral because it's not just one individual telling them that, it's a company that is a well-known or trusted brand telling an individual about your brand. So it helps in your direct market to build massive brand awareness. And it really just does happen quickly because it starts to position you with like, I'm new, but I'm now positioned with the people who have been around for a while and the trusted brands that are out there. So it's a really big thing to do. And we try to coach and tell chefs, really put the time in, create lists and lists of them, reach out to them, create appointments.
Right.
We teach extensively in our programs about how to reach out to them and how to partner with them. But they're massive, and it's not. It just goes beyond like definitely like our partnerships. We have Key Concierge, the national concierge company. They actually rent and manage a lot of homes now, and they're massive. So we have a partnership with them in over 25 cities in the United States. What it does is it's huge. We built it from them trusting us in San Diego, and then eventually it's like kind of told them what Chefpreneur is all about. We have an amazing network and family of other chefs that we've coached and mentored with all their own businesses. And they looked at us and like, why would we need to go through and vet a bunch of chefs? If you're coaching them and you're vetting them, we feel trusted to go through you and partner with you to access your network. And so it can become very powerful. And it's again, and we believe it's the fastest way to grow the brand and really establish the trust. It's not always the quickest to find every single client right out the gate, but actually those seeds sown over time produce a massive amount of harvest. And you can get a lot of referrals from there and you can get a lot of business for sure. And it's how
Right.
I built my business. But yeah, partnerships are huge. And if you're not doing them and you're in business, you're missing out. In fact, you should make it part of your kind of habitual routine to, I mean, we coach all of our chefs that we coach and mentor as we help them build their business or grow their business. We say make a list of 50 of them
Yeah.
in your area, and they're like, what? I can't find 50. And then we teach them on how to find them. And then they go, oh, I actually found more than 50. And then you just got to hit the phones, create appointments, go see them in person, do whatever you got to do to continue to drive that. Once you nail down a few partnerships, I'll use Chef Andrew as an example. I'm currently coaching him, a great young chef, Clean Comfort Chef. Shout out to Chef Andrew Elise. There in the Ithaca area of New York. And he started doing that. He started emailing and calling and emailing and calling. And he's like, okay, chef, I'm doing this like the lit. And then it was like one day he's messaging me, got my first partnership, got my second one, got my first lead from. And what happens is that they'll start to build that. And then it even creates more trust where you're like, hey, I'm also partnered with so and so. And then even the brands that trust the other brands, now they even trust you. So actually the partnership authority as well increases in even with you, because if you're already partnered with a Nike, why would, I mean, it's different with sponsorships, but I'm just using it as a metaphor. If
Right.
Nike trusts you, chances are Adidas will probably trust you. Do you see what I'm trying to say? Because they're like, well,
Totally.
Nike trusts them. So it's really exciting, but it does, again, it takes work. You have to be committed to say, this is what I'm going to do. And now you don't have to find 50 a month, but when you're first starting, make the longest list you can and keep doing that. And then try to make it a habitual routine every other week, every week, reach out to just one new one. And if
Well,
you keep that part of habitual, your business will start to grow.
I think another thing that's important, chef, is that when you are personal chefing out there and you do establish new clients, you have to listen to your clients.
Yeah.
What is, you know, okay, I'm going to give an example. I had a client at a lake home here this last year. Well, do you offer Wagyu? Well, some I never thought about. So I partnered with another farm here in Missouri. We get all of our Wagyu from this farm. I got another pork person as well to source those fresh ingredients. Now, now it's on my menu. Now we sell that as a chef's table option on our website under your Wagyu farm to table experience because
Ooh,
I'm
I love
listening
that.
to customer base. You got to listen to your customers, and that
Yep.
drives your business. It's not what you think;
Yep.
it's what the guest wants. And we're a service to create those memories for those guests. I mean, they could, get in the car and drive down the street to another place to eat, but you have that one shot to make that experience. And when they come back next year, you can book them again.
I
And
love that. Yep.
because you have made that experience, and you treat them like family. Uh, you try to do that and listen to your customers, and that's what drives a lot of my menus. Yes, my cuisine is European inspired. We do some French dishes. We do some Italian dishes. It just depends on the region, what the customer wants. And but I think what sometimes we miss as chefs is that you got to listen to the guest. That's what pays our bills. That's what makes it so much fun. Is that it's a new event. It's a new experience.
I love that. I
You
mean,
know.
that's a great idea. And that definitely is where actually, like we talked about, you can grow your understanding more, even from people that they're sending you, especially partnerships, because it starts to unveil maybe gaps where people are wanting things and then you provide them. As like I said, business is simple. Give people what they want, give people what they need. It's a simple concept, but again, to execute it is where it's not easy. But at the same time, that's I love that. It's the same example we have in San Diego. We get, I don't know, I feel like we get at least 1 to 2 to 3 requests sometimes a month of
Mhm.
people that are going to go fishing. They're taking like a fishing, excursion per se,
Right.
and then they're like, we just want a chef to like cook all this tuna that we're bringing back, or the yellowtail, or what.
Yep.
And so like we do quite a bit of those. And sometimes, we're talking to the client and they book us and they're all excited, like, yeah, we're providing the fish, right? Like we're going to have abundant fish. And then they're always like, yeah, let's also have a backup plan in case we don't get any fish. What can we do? So
Yeah.
it's just, but again, it's like, and we get a lot of requests for paella as well,
Yep.
which is, I mean, we're not really putting out those vibes, but people are wanting them. So it's like,
Mhm.
we always talk about in Chefpreneur really finding your niche. Now, if people are wanting sushi and you don't do sushi, we get that. Like, that's not,
Right.
it's not like, hey, let's all become a sushi master unless that's what you want to do. But I'm
Right.
saying within your niche, within your scope of what you do, like you were saying, with your European influence, but still bringing in that, providing that local Wagyu experience where people just want the Wagyu. And it's like, awesome. Let's kind of create an experience around that. And even you can market that specifically to the different buckets within your niche and your target market, right? So, because not everybody's going to want Wagyu, but there's going to be a
Mhm.
lot of people who want Wagyu. So it starts to create these different experiences and options. So that's awesome, Chef. That's great question with the partnerships.
And the other thing I wanted to touch on is that I think that everything is changing so quickly around us that innovation is the key for all of our businesses. You got to be innovative to get that sell, is what I call it. There's other people doing the same thing you're doing, but why are you different? What kind of experience do you bring to the table? What kind of menus? I created my menus on my website, fergusonculinaryconcepts.com, to where it's a chef table environment, to where here's my pricing, this is the experience. Do have the Wagyu on there as well. So it could change in the next 6 months. I don't know, but I want to be innovative and be able to change out what I need to, to take care of the guest, So
I mean, I think that's so, are you asking like, how innovative should we be necessarily, or what I feel,
yeah, what is your
innovation would
thing?
be?
What is your thing on that? You think?
So if I was going to be honest, I think that I don't get me wrong. I think that food innovatively, is always presented, and people want, not everybody, but some people want innovation. Molecular gastronomy, things that are a little bit more edgy, like we were talking about Alinea. It's a perfect example. That's very different than going to your local pub, going to your local bistro, and getting a great steak
Mhm.
frite, right? Like,
Right.
but you know, what I want to do is I even want to challenge your mentality, even on the call, a little bit on what innovation means. Like for me,
Mhm.
I like to look at the market overall, and you have to look at how things shift. We're in a very heavy, starting to become more involved with ChatGPT for everything. We're starting to become more involved. We have Uber Eats, we have DoorDash and Grubhub, and all these meal, kind of food delivery systems, and we have different things that are constantly evolving. And I think this is just my opinion, again, take it or leave it. I think a lot of people look at those types of things and says, well, we have to move with the times and we have to make sure we're keeping up with that. And I agree with that to a degree, right? Technology is one of those things where, but we have to, again, going back, I got to give you a lot of credit there. You have to know your target. People that are still booking, that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, personal chef experiences, they maybe want some innovative, dishes and menu items, but they're
Mhm.
not so innovative when it comes to being able to talk to a real human being, being
Right.
able to, make sure that they understand what's going on with the service. I think everybody, even these larger platforms like Take a Chef and different things. Again, I think I want to produce a whole YouTube video on this, because there's so many platforms to bring leads and different things to chefs such as
Yeah.
ourselves in our business.
Right.
And honestly, I'm not here to downplay any of them. They're all innovative in their own right. They're all filling gaps in the market of providing, kind of clients for chefs and helping them get leads, and at the same time helping clients find chefs. But again, they do everything through an app, through chat, through this. And I just don't believe, I think sometimes even being old school is
Mhm.
innovative. It's
Yep.
kind of weird to say, right? Like, remember the old show, The Jetsons, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
everybody's flying around, with
Yeah.
cars and being innovative. But you can't tell me that when our cars in the future, one day, I mean, we know that we're going to have flying cars. I mean, we have planes already, but one day, it doesn't mean that that actually means a 57 Chevy big block is probably going to be valued more because it's even though it's old school, it's kind of not innovative in the sense of innovation, but it's what I guess you would say a good standard is. And so I think there's a lot of innovation with business that doesn't necessarily have to be the product. I mean, you probably seen me and heard me teach that 20% of the experience is the food.
Right.
So if we're going to be innovative, the innovative has to be the rest of the experience. Is it easy
Right.
for them to book you? But do you have a process? Do you have a sales process? Do you have a script on a call when you're talking to a client about what they want and having a personal heart and a touch, but still giving them a very direct process that you're walking them through to make it easy? So I think that that's innovative in the personal chef realm because I think a lot of chefs struggle with processes and procedures and even sales and all that stuff, and they feel overwhelmed, and it's easy to kind of hide behind an email or a text, but unfortunately it's just not the best way to do business. So innovation is a very loose
Mhm.
term. Some people think of it as tech,
Right.
they think of it as edgy, they think of it as like new and exciting. Yes, you even read the definition of innovative, but I also think like sometimes innovating just to innovate's sake is not innovation, it's just confusion. It stifles things, right? And so you mentioned the pandemic, and a lot of people, of course, there was a lot of laws and things, or like, they were not allowing people to open, and it was a mess. Now, after that, people got used to Zoom,
Yeah.
used to virtual,
Yeah.
but when you really go to the heart, people love getting together. I mean, I love getting together with the boys and smoking a stogie and cooking meat on an open fire. Like,
Yeah.
that's about as primitive as you can get, but that's something that I love to do, and I don't want to do that virtually. I mean, I think it'd be kind of weird, but right? I mean, but the thing is like, so we have to be careful, innovative sake. I think there's always going to be principles that are going to be humanistic. I think if we can accelerate the process, Brock and the team over at Sue Software are doing an amazing job because they're trying to innovate to help chefs bridge the gap with technology to help them produce a better service and experience. At the
Mhm.
same time, letting the things highlight that are supposed to be personal, that people want that personal connection.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those people. I turned 40 this year. So I'm getting there, but I still like to talk to people on the phone. For me, it's much faster, easier. Even with things that I'm trying to accomplish, right? It's like, just get them on the phone. Let me call them. Let me talk to them for a few
Well,
minutes. Let me see their face.
that's an interesting point that you said. A lot there. Just you running your business, me running mine. Sometimes people like to text, some people like to email. But if you get them on the phone, it's a lot different.
It
It
is.
opens up more doors. You can kind of get a picture of what's going on. With a text, it's a little harder to do that. You
It
know.
is
You know.
100%. And I mean, we can get into a whole episode about tonality, right? I was telling this, like, God forbid, I met your wife briefly before the show, and if you, if somebody would read the tone of the text and the tone in their mind of how they're feeling that day, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know, if you're upset and your spouse is sending you a text saying, "Are you almost home?"
Yeah.
but you're upset, you're going to read it, "Are you almost home?" That's how you're going to read it. But your spouse could have said it the way she or he might have intended, is like, "Are you almost home?" Notice how the tone, same words but different tone. And so, like, again, this is a very small thing, but again, I'm going to be teaching it in a sales workshop here in Atlanta, coming up on the 27th of February. But tonality is so big because if you don't have that, it becomes very cut and dry. And us as human beings, we want to avoid pain. We want to avoid burning calories and being confused. But sometimes that's even at our own detriment. We already know that. We already know that, like, if we don't walk a mile a day or 10,000 steps or whatever they tell you to do, or if we don't do, like, it's not good for us, but we as human beings don't want to do that. So there's things where we want to be lazy, but it's actually to our own detriment as consumers and as business owners to put it, I guess you would say, into that platform. So like you said, it's like there might be people that prefer to text or email,
Hmm.
but it's like I don't really care if they prefer or not because I care about them and I want the preference to be them having the best experience. And I know they will have the best experience if we just have a short 10-minute conversation on the phone.
Right.
And because they can see the tonality. Plus, sometimes you have to plant seeds of the opposite. I know it sounds really weird, right? It's not to use fear tactics, but what, even again, as I was saying right now, using a metaphor of nobody really wants to work out necessarily every day. I mean, some people do, but really it creates a habit and then they really like it. But our bodies want to avoid pain. We want to avoid hardness. We want to avoid it's something being hard. But like I said before, we need to also plant seeds to get our brain to function enough to say that's not good. So again, it's kind of like, let's say a client says, "Oh, I only wanted to go through email." If I would just respond to a client, I'm not saying go do this, but think about this for a minute psychologically. If I would respond to a client and say, a potential client, let's say, "Oh, I only want to talk to you through email. I don't want to set up a call." So, we would be really, we would love to set up a call to make sure that you feel comfortable with us. After all, we are coming into your home to cook. Like we're coming into your private space.
Yep.
I planted a seed now, I'm not saying of fear, but it's got them their brain now has awareness. Like, actually, that's right. Like, holy crap. What if this person's a serial killer? I'm bringing in my house. Like, oh, maybe I should have a conversation, just hear what they have to say on the phone to make sure that they're real.
Right.
It's so funny, right? It's so funny that we're not saying it in a rude way, but we're planting a seed enough to get people to shift the mentality a little bit and say, that kind of makes sense. Plus, to be honest, there's a lot of scammers out there. This chef running your personal chef business. I mean, how many times do we get I'd like my family reunion of 30 people and we want this and this, and it's just some scam that they're going to walk you through. Whatever.
That is so true.
It's so annoying, right? So I even tell them, like, yeah, let's get on a call. I'd love to serve you and your family reunion. Let's get on a call. And they're, oh, no, I just like text. Well, and sometimes you can smell it, right? But again, I think the word personal chef, you having a phone conversation, or again, even if you were ability to even meet them in person first, like the word personal, private, like those two words, even though we talked about the difference of like what a private chef is, what a personal chef is. Yes, but it doesn't matter which word you use. It's personal, it's private. And that's something that is well delivered with a real conversation, not through AI, not through text, even not through email. So again, like, I think there's ways that we need to also reprogram our brain to say what is innovative. For instance, I was looking at your website actually before we hopped on, and I was looking over it, and you're right. You can tell your company and your brand is very focused and steeped in traditional, European. Your logo is like you have the white coat on, you have the hat on. But what's funny about that is like things can be so innovative where there's niches and there's target markets and clients that chefs will have, chefpreneurs will have, that will attract this person or that. And I'm looking right now at your services page, and I'm seeing this amazing, it looks like, I think, a creme brulee that looks delicious. It's like, I love a creme brulee. Like, when does a creme brulee not go, like, I don't think a creme brulee is ever going to go out of style. I mean, it'd be weird for it to go out of style. It's delicious. So it's like, but a lot of people make really bad creme brulee. So again, I feel like there's cycles. Like you get so innovative, and these restaurants are so innovative, and then you order a creme brulee at a restaurant that's so innovative, and it's like soup, and you're like, what? Where's the creme brulee? Like, this is garbage. Like, you can't even make a creme brulee good.
Well, chef, I've got, my great grandfather was from France. We have some Irish background as well, but I was always drawn to French cuisine as a kid, and I never knew why until I found out that I had it in my bloodline from France.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I work with actually two different really talented chefs over the year that were from France, and I learned quite a bit, and it kind of just instills in you.
It does. And again, like those types of things. And trust me, like, we both cook for wealthy people. I've cooked for many. I've been best to cook for some very, very high, like multi-billionaire net worth people.
Yep.
And sometimes they're like, yeah, we want white jasmine rice with grilled salmon and steamed vegetables. And you're like, okay. they're not usually wanting foie gras and caviar. Sometimes the 30-year-old, celebratory promotion type people, but for the most part, at least with our target demographic and what I've seen across the board, and a lot of even the chefs I coach, what these clients want. Sometimes they come back to me and they're like, some of my mentees are like, chef, they want asparagus, mashed potatoes, and filet mignon, and it's like what everybody does, right? But it's what people want, and that's what they want, and that's what you give them, and you make it the best filet, mashed potatoes, and steamed vegetables, or whatever asparagus that you can make. So again, but I think that there's a niche for innovation too. There's always going to be a good market for people that want very innovative things with techniques and food, and those are all great things. And again, it has to translate. But again, we can't lose sight on as well. I think especially in business, menus, be innovative, be creative. Business, make it simple, easy to use, easy to understand, create it on very solid foundations, ABC type stuff,
Yeah.
and you'll see a really thriving business with that. And then, like you said, innovate. And another way to innovate, chef, like you were talking about how you have different chefs that you've brought into your company that you've worked with and that help you with different events, and you contract them. It's like, this is another opportunity for us to create, again, even in the Chefpreneur family, to share dishes, to share recipes, to share ideas, to get more innovation. One of our chefs that went to our retreat and also went through several of our programs, Chef Nate Smoose, he does really high end, omakase dinners and really focused on Japanese cuisine. And the guy is extremely talented with his food, extremely talented, creating sauces 3 days in advance and crazy stuff that I don't do and I don't know.
Right.
Can I learn it? Yeah, but it's beautiful because he has his own lane. He has his thing that he's doing, and that's his heart. But at the same time, he got a lot of knowledge of how to operate the business, and we helped him how to structure the foundation to be able to display his art per se, right? To be able to actually get someone to say yes so he can actually cook for them. Because your innovation doesn't matter unless you're just cooking it at home and taking pictures with it, unless you book clients.
Chef, it's like you said, you got to keep it simple, and you got to be able to sell your experience as well,
Correct.
And yes, you might have a target market of different clientele, but you're going to focus on your target. But what I'm saying is, if you get too innovative, then some people don't even know what they're eating, and that
Exactly.
sometimes that
Exactly.
sell,
Exactly. Unless that's the only selling point you have, unless you're on, again, you're in a 3-star Michelin restaurant where the whole concept is you don't know what you're eating. I mean, it sounds weird to say that, but it's true.
Yeah,
If
it's
that's
true.
the focus, then it's like you're actually hitting your mark. If not, you're just confusing, and people, I mean, again, you're in Springfield, Missouri area. You definitely, of course, have, cooked for people in other areas in Florida, you were saying, in different places, but there's still a lot of people that are well off, that are our target demographic, and if they don't even know how to pronounce something, they don't like it because they just don't know what they're eating. And there's plenty of people like that. So that's awesome, chef. I mean, man, I really want to, just say thank you for coming on the show. I think we had such a great conversation with you, chef. And I thank you for giving, us some insight into not only your life, your background, but again, your passion. I'm really excited for your business to have, I know you're 2 years in, to have 20 more years in it and really build something continually special to
Thank you.
serve your clientele. And any last words before we jump off the podcast today?
Appreciate the invite today. Just follow my social media at Ferguson Culinary Concepts on Facebook. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and my website's fergusonculinaryconcepts.com.
I love that. So yeah, follow Chef Larry, again, Ferguson Culinary Concepts on Instagram, FergusonCulinaryConcepts.com. So that's FERGUSON. If you're in the Springfield area, if you're in the Ozarks, if you're in different areas that he serves, head over to his website. Make sure that you let his team take care of you. I know you'll be in good hands. And Chef, thank you so much again for.
Thanks, man. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
awesome.
no, I enjoyed having you on, and I think it brought a lot of value to, again, different chefs that are looking into this, and also just creating some great insights. So again, guys, thank you guys for tuning into the podcast today. If you're watching this again on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and also hit that bell for notifications so you get notified when we go live, as well as when we have new videos for you to really help you build your personal chef business. And if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere you're listening to your podcast, make sure you subscribe, like, and even comment and leave a review for us. If you're listening to this podcast on Spotify or any of the platforms, those reviews really, really help us to just get the word out and help more chefs like your guys' self. So God bless you guys. Take care, and we will see you next week.